Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the February 29 meeting of the Chatham Finance Committee. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29, 2023 signing of the Acts of 23, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until March 31, 2025, this meeting of the Chatham Finance Committee is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the governor's order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410. Again, 508-945-4410 and enter conference ID 698-918-859 #. Again, 698-918-859 #, or one may join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. Well, this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We shall, however, post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. So, we are going to continue our work on the 2024 warrant, fiscal year 25 warrant. I'm going to take a series of votes today, going over things that have already been presented to us. So we'll be taking brief summaries from Carrie, and perhaps others on the various articles, but first let me do a roll call. Joanne Sprague.
Here.
Kristen Andres.
Here.
Barb Madison.
Here.
Lacey Shields.
Here.
Andy Young. Here. Tommy Doan.
Here.
John Papalardo.
Here.
Eric Whiteley.
Here.
The chairman is here. Full complement. Nice to see everybody. Some of you are suspiciously tan. Okay, let's get into it. Hi, Carrie.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess over to you for the start of the rolling out for the votes, please.
Oh, okay. So the first item on the agenda is the 2025 operating budget. Originally, we had put down that the proposed amount was going to be $40,016,000, and it is now $40,085,000. Sorry, I just want to go back to the slide. So it was a 5.06% percent increase, but now it's at 5.24% increase. So the increases are amount to $69,316, $67,666 for the retirement assessment. I did go over that when I went through the general government. We added $2,500 to the Chatham Band for a budget of $10,000 for 2025. I added $2,000 to the sticker office expenses, and that's due to the expenses going over last year in FY23. I reduced the railroad by $2,000 because I actually accidentally put $5,000 and it should have been $3,000. I added $700 to the accounting office mileage, and that's just due to new staff and going to conferences and such. And I reduced the town manager's meetings, dues, and travels by $1,550.
Okay, any questions for Carrie? So Carrie, do you want us to?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Oh, just one sec. Carrie, is there anything further you want to try to cover on this, or?
Not unless you guys have any other questions.
Okay, Joanne, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Before I vote on all these articles today, I'd just like an understanding of the list you gave to us, saying all these articles were approved. That the final tax rate you came up with was 371. Is that correct?
That is with currently right now with the additional articles. Yep.
And
that's not for the that includes operating
Right.
schools and all that stuff. Yep.
everything that's on that we would be voting on in the next few days.
Correct. Yep.
And so we'd have a 3.71 increase in the tax rate, plus the surcharges on top of that for people who want to try and figure out the final cost of all of this.
The surcharges for what?
When you get your tax bill, you have the surcharges for the land bank. What's left of the land bank is now OPED, right?
OPEB? Yes.
and the other is for CPA.
CPC, okay, yep.
So I want to just jump in because I think I'm a little confused. You referenced a $3.71 tax rate, and then Joanne, you just referenced a 3.71% change.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So to be
Well, I
clear,
mean, a
the ta-
change.
the effective tax rate as of now,
Is 357,
357.
yep.
Thank you.
That's if we vote everything
That's
that
this year.
that has money in it.
Very good, thank you.
And I think that's, at least for me, that's good to know before we start voting on all of the articles, to know what we're doing and what the effect of what we would be doing if we approved everything
Yep,
that we're
I
looking at.
sent you the scorecard, correct? You got that?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome.
I wasn't quite sure about the end of it and the 3.71, but now I think I figured out, then you subtracted the reductions and
Yep,
measured those against the increases.
yep,
And that's, with everything considered, you finally came up with not 3.57 as we first thought, but a 3.71.
and that all depends on also the assessors and what everything comes in at for evaluations and such like that. So this is just based on the current year evaluations.
Right, in other words, if the evaluation increased, even though the tax rate was 3.71, your tax bill could increase that or more.
Correct.
And I just like to be clear on that before I start voting. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Andy, please.
Or the tax bill could decrease.
It
There are
could-
people who experience a decrease in their tax bill after revaluation.
Well,
I wanted to be clear of that.
I had not heard that. Thank you, Andy. I have heard, and not heard, I've had the other brought up to me about the increases, but I have not had anyone come up to me and say, why did you decrease my tax bill?
They rarely complain about it.
All right, further questions for Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Of course, thank you. Further questions for Carrie with respect to the proposed FY25 town operating budget? If not, I'll take a motion to adopt said budget in the amount of $40,085,339.
So moved.
Thank you, Tommy. Second.
Second.
Tie goes to the runner.
Whatever.
Joanne, in favor?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Andy?
Yeah, aye.
Tommy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Eric?
Abstain.
Thank you. And the vote chairs in favor, so we are 8-0-1. Terrific.
Thank you.
Quickest $40 million ever approved. All right, we are on to article entitled Prior Year Bills Payment Authorizations. Carrie, please.
Yes. So the prior year bills, these are invoices that were received after the close of the last fiscal year. Per Mass General Law, any prior year bills requires approval from town meeting for payment. We have a total of $1,330.25 worth of unpaid bills from FY '23. And these are the list of the bills. If you actually want to look at them, I do have them with me, but so, does anybody have any
Okay, quick
questions on
questions for
these?
Carrie on unpaid bills? If not, I'll take a motion to adopt.
So moved?
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Tracy. To support, $1,330.25 in FY '23 unpaid bills. Covering those bills, Joanne,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Tracy,
Aye.
Andy,
Aye.
Tommy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
and the chair's in favor. That's 9-0 for unpaid bills. Thank you. Fixed salaries, elected officials. Carrie, please.
So this is an annual article. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 108, salaries and compensation of elected officers must be fixed annually by vote of the town and at an annual town meeting. This article fixes or sets but does not appropriate these salaries. Actual appropriation of funds for these salaries occurs under Article 9, Town Operating Budget, which was already voted.
Questions for Carrie with respect to fixing salaries for our elected officials? John, please.
Why did the moderator number go down?
Actually, it's a typo, so it's level funded across, so it should be.
I didn't know if he did something
1,200.
naughty and was being penalized.
Oh, no,
reduced
it should be level funded.
Yes.
Sorry, that is a typo. It's
The-
correct on the article.
Yeah, the article, the draft article is correct.
I sent to you yesterday.
It's correct.
It is correct, yeah.
Nice catch, John. Thank
Sorry,
you.
I was
Anybody
going
else?
through them fast.
Okay, if not, I'll take a motion to adopt the fixed salaries in the amount of, amount stipulated, $6,200.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Joanne, support?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Aye.
Eric?
Yes.
And the chair's in favor, 9-0 on that. On to consolidated revolving funds. Carrie, please.
Okay, so this is also another annual article on town meeting. The purpose of these revolving funds is to segregate revenues generated by each of the operations and to restrict use of those revenues for the purpose for which they are collected. As required by state statute, the following is an accounting of these funds for the prior fiscal year throughout December 31st, 2023. That is on the article. You have the balances of as of December 31st, 2023. But the revolving funds, this is what they can expend for the year. So Bassett House would be an $8,000 expenditure for 2025. Inspectional Services Revolving Fund would be $150,000 for 2025. Recycling Revolving Fund would be $5,000 for 2025. Marconi Station Revolving Fund, $10,000 for 2025, and Waterways User Fee Revolving Fund, $1 million for 2025.
Thank you, Carrie. Questions from the committee regarding revolving funds? Tommy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the inspection services, do they, are these, is this when they do like a building inspection? So do they get a fee? We get a fee for these
So,
inspections?
Right, they do, well, there is a fee that's charged, and currently, as of right now, 10% of what somebody pays for the fee goes into this revolving fund to pay for the inspectors.
Okay, thank you.
Barbara, please.
Carrie, are these expenditures the same as they were last year?
Yes, they are.
Thanks.
They have not changed.
Carrie, do we have, I know there's been some chatter around the Waterways User Fee Revolving Fund spend. Are there specific plans for that at this point in time?
I'm
Or
sorry.
Town manager?
Yes, so right now, Natural Resources is working with I think it's a Waterways Advisory Committee on master planning, the Waterways User Fee. And I think right now, they have a $800,000 request to use it for the 90 Bridge Street project. That's being circulated amongst, I think it's 4 or 5 of the committees, and then it comes back to me for the ultimate approval. So that would take care of the up to $1 million for this year, which is only 800,000. And I don't have it in front of me, but I know that the team's been working on the master plan for it.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Carrie, are there significant balances in any of these, existing balances in any of these accounts at this point?
Yeah, so the water, like I said, as of December 31st, the waterway user fee is 1.8 million. Marconi Station revolving has $40,000. Let's see, Bassett House revolving fund has 42,000, and inspectional services, $785.
Okay, thank you. Tracy, please.
If there's 1.8 in the waterway users fee, why do we set the limit of use at 1 million?
I think it's an external control factor so that there's transparency and monitoring of it. And for that, the waterway user fee for the specific waterfront projects, that's presented to the select board to review for the projects to move forward and then to offset it with a portion of this. So we're a little late this year in putting forward our request, and that's why the balance is 1.8, but it will be reduced by 800,000 probably within the next week as it finalizes the review amongst the committees.
Okay, further questions?
But in general, the idea is to use that money to offset as much as we can offset the expenditures on waterways, right?
Oh, exactly, yes. And the source of the funds are the docking permits, the fish pier lease revenues, the fuel lease revenues, fisherman storage area, the new licenses for that. So it has a non-tax-based revenue generation, and the intent is to use it to offset the waterfront projects.
Am I correct here, either Carrie or Jill, am I correct in remembering that another input to the waterways user fee is a fee associated with the moorings that individuals are paying, or am I recalling that?
I believe the mooring revenues are moving into, or are in that fund.
I thought so, okay, thank you. Okay. Further questions? If not, I'll take a motion to support the consolidated revolving funds allocation.
Move it.
Second?
Thank you, Barbara. Joanne?
Yes,
Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And the chair's in favor, another 9-0. Thank you, Carrie. That takes us over to airport revolving fund
Airport
authorization.
revolving. It's the same type of revolving fund as the previous one, but we just do this on a separate article. And it's just for the airport, and their expenditure is no more than $150,000 for 2025.
Okay, questions? Tommy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Carrie, how much is in that fund now?
Right now, there is as of December 31st, there was a balance of $36,570.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions? Andy, please.
From reading the article, it looks as though the source of funding for this is, amongst other things, T-hanger lease payments.
Yep.
What are the other sources?
That is a very good question. Do you know exactly what goes into this fund? I
FPO
can-
lease,
Yeah, the FBO airport manager's contract.
okay,
It's a management contract where they pay the town.
right. Okay. Any other sources?
I'd have to look. I don't know if any of the fuel goes into it, but definitely the hangar leases as well as the management contract revenue.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
It would be interesting to follow up on the fuel, given that we charge fishermen, there's a surcharge that goes into the WOOF for fuel at the fish pier.
Right.
Should there be a parallel construction over the airport if we don't currently do that? Be interesting to think about.
Okay. Yeah, I guess yeah, that's it. I have my question answered.
Okay, another question? Other questions? If not, I'll take a motion to support a $150,000 allocation to the airport revolving fund.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, guys. Joanne?
yes,
Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And the chair is in favor, 9-0. Thank you.
Wood waste
Wood waste
reclamation.
reclamation, yep.
Yep. This is an enterprise fund. So one of the requirements of an enterprise fund is that a budget must be adopted at town meeting every year. The wood waste facility is leased out with annual revenue at approximately $25,000 per year. The revenue will be used to support groundwater monitoring and other costs associated with the operation of the facility. So the budget for the year is $25,000.
Questions, please? Wood waste reclamation. Andy, please.
Carrie, who's the lessee?
The lease, Jill, do you know who the lease is?
I was just looking it up. It was T.W. Nickerson. I don't have it at the tip of my tongue, but definitely we do have a new lessee. And the current lease of the property expires on December 31st, 2029.
Okay, right.
But it's
Thank you.
it's no longer T.W. Nixon?
We refer to it as T.W. Nickerson. I just need to make sure if it is indeed still T.W. Nickerson. I see a head
Kristen,
shake.
please.
I'm curious what the status is of the cleanup, because the whole idea was that this is T.W. Nickerson, and now the new company that's leasing is supposed to be cleaning up the stump dump. So I was wondering if anybody knows what the status of that is, because come 2029, we own it outright. I mean, and whatever's there, so curious about the status, if you know.
We'll get back to you on that. Thanks.
Thank you. Tommy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is the operating expenses for with the town? 25,000.
I don't know exactly what we expend the expenses on. I can probably.
We do
you?
groundwater monitoring, so there's a consultant who does that, and I don't know what other, the article itself says that it's for groundwater monitoring and other costs associated with the operation of the facility. So we can certainly get back to
Thank you.
come on that.
So if we could add that to our list of kind of outstandings for today, both the stump dump status, who the current lessee is, what the state of play is with respect to the cleanup, per Kristen's question, as well as whatever
What the
non-water testing-related operating expenses maybe would be most helpful, please.
Yep, I wrote that down.
Further questions? If not, I'll take it to a motion to adopt a $25,000 allocation for the Wood Waste Reclamation Facility Enterprise Fund.
So moved.
Second.
You're going for it. Thank you. Joanne, in favor?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Chairs in favor, 9-0, thank you. Regional School Operating Budget, Cape Cod Regional Tech.
This one I am going to skip over because it has not been voted on by the select board because there might be a reduction. They're still waiting on final figures.
And that holds for both the tech and MRSD?
The tech did not state that, so they voted on the tech.
Okay, so why don't we look at the tech, which I have listed at 575, 47, there it is, yep, 479. Mm-hmm. Any exposition, Carrie?
So right now, the $575,479, that represents 20 students going to the tech. And it is a increase of $199,376 over from 2024. And it also includes our debt service of
Mr. Chair?
$173,197.
Terrific, thank you, Carrie.
You're welcome.
Joanne, a question?
Has anyone done the figures of how much per pupil we pay? I guess you just
Oh, they do
use your
talk about
calculator,
that.
but I
75
haven't.
divided by 20.
And compare that with what the cost of our Monomoy Regional School pupils? Just in case,
$28,773.95
per student.
per student. But that includes debt service.
Say that again?
That includes debt service, the cost that we're paying, our allocated cost for the cost of the new building. Do you have, Carrie, just the non-debt service?
Right, it's 575, 479 minus the 173, 197.
Which is 402, 282. 20 divided by is $20,114.10.
Okay, and what do we pay per student for Monomoy Regional?
It was in their presentation, Carrie. I don't know if you have it handy. If the FinCom received the same presentation by them.
Right, I can get back to you on that.
It's more than that. I know that.
It probably, yeah, oh, yeah, yes,
Well,
it is.
you know, between you and me, I'd like to know how much, not, we don't have it right now, but for my information and for the taxpayers' information, just, it's good knowledge, good thing to know.
Yep, no problem. I'll get it to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll put that on the list. So questions regarding the tech budget? If not, I'll take a motion to support $575,479, please,
So moved.
for the tech.
Second.
Thank you. Joanne, in favor?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yep.
Andy?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Thank you. Chairs in favor? 9-0. I'm delighted to see 20 Chatham students taking advantage of the tech. I think it's a terrific outcome. I think this committee is, since my affiliation and before, I'm sure, has been a big supporter of the tech. It's terrific to see.
And I have no argument either, Mr. Chair, of either of our school programs. I'd just like for the taxpayers to know what we know
Yep, fully
about the budget
understood.
that we're voting and why we voted.
Water Department operating budget, Carrie, please.
2025 water operating budget. This is an overview of the water operating budget. It is at $4,399,250. And that is a $485,679 increase, or a 12.41% increase from FY 2024.
Okay. Carrie, I'll lead with a question. Do we know how much of that 12.41% increase over FY '24 is due to what?
Mostly due to debt.
Mostly due to debt. Mm-hmm. And is that the cost of the existing debt or just more amortization and?
It's due to the existing debt that we took on in 2024.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Joanne, please.
2023, sorry.
And this, Mr. Chair, comes from the Water Department income, which ultimately comes from the tax, from the users' fees for the water. It doesn't come directly.
Correct.
Except for the 400 and some charges, $1,000 charges from the tax revenue. Okay,
Right.
thank
Yep.
you.
You're welcome.
Colloquially put, it's the same pair of pants, just a different pocket.
Exactly.
Further comments or questions for Carrie, please? If not, I'll take a motion to support the proposed Water Department operating budget of $4,399,250.
So moved.
Thank you, Tommy. Second.
Second.
Thank you. Joanne, support.
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yep.
Andy?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric?
Abstain.
And I have to abstain as well. I was not there for the presentation. So it's 7-0 to 2
Okay.
for the
Thank you.
Water Department operating budget. And we are on to the stabilization fund appropriation. Carrie?
Sorry. This is to see if the town will vote to transfer from overlay surplus the sum of $150,000 for the purpose of funding the stabilization trust fund.
And could we just, for the benefit of anybody who may be watching, just explain what the stabilization fund appropriation is and why we've once again begun to,
Stabilization
funds over there.
funds are special reserves into which monies may be appropriated and reserved for later appropriation for any lawful municipal purpose.
so essentially it's a rainy day fund for the town of Chatham?
Yes.
And we stopped funding it for some period of time. Mm-hmm. And now, I guess we started, Jill, last year, I think we started again with this allocation.
This is the first time in a while that we've done
First time.
the transfer to stabilization to be in compliance with our policies. It's the first time we've needed to do it.
Okay. Terrific questions. Andy, please.
Sort of in the same vein, could you briefly describe what the overlay surplus is?
Overlay surplus, yes. Overlay is a single account to fund abatements and exemptions of committed real and personal property taxes for any fiscal year. The overlay amount is determined by the Board of Assessors and may be raised in the tax rate without appropriation. Excess overlay is determined, certified, and transferred by vote of the assessors to a fund balance reserved for overlay released by the assessors for expenditures called overlay surplus.
Okay, thank you. Maybe this is a question more properly for Jill, but having gone through a reval, I presume that's where changes might be drawn from, is from the overlay surplus, or that may be reflected in that. And so how did that work out?
Carrie, I think this is more of you because there's the overlay surplus account, there's the abatement account, there's a number of accounts that are held under the assessing department. So I don't know if you have that answer.
What was the question again? Andy?
Well, I guess what I was driving, I guess in my simple mind is simply, we've been through a reval. The assessors presumably have done their work on any applications for abatements and other changes. how did it all work out?
So each year, the assessors come up with a specific amount for overlay that they think, or abatements and exemptions that they think that might come through. Say it's 400,000. So many people will come to the town hall and say, you valued my house incorrectly or such, and then they get an abatement, so they get a certain amount. And what happens with the overlay surplus is if the full 400,000 is not used, it becomes overlay surplus. And currently, we have, I think it's like around $800,000 in overlay surplus from prior fiscal years.
So we are projecting that we have enough room in that to be able to take 150 out and put it in the stabilization.
Yes, that's correct, because the overlay surplus is from prior fiscal years, which could go back to like 2015. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And the assessors have to vote to allow us to use those funds. So
Yep.
they're very keen on how much is forecasted and available and so forth.
Okay, great, thank you.
Tommy, is your hand up, or Barbara's is, though, I think?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there a time limit on how long people have to contest the values of their properties? I mean, do we know that the 800 in there is going to stay in there because people have gone past the time which they can debate the value of their properties?
I don't know if there's a specific time. That's more, I think, of an assessor's question. I don't really.
Okay.
I'm not sure either. We can get back to you on that.
As I recall, there is a deadline, right? After the new valuation comes out and you've received your tax bill. So, I mean, I'm presuming there's got to be a deadline in there someplace.
Yeah, there has to be.
One would think that would make sense, but let's put it on our list and we'll find out.
Okay.
Joanne, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. And what may the stabilization fund be used for, and how do we access it when we want to withdraw money from it?
Sorry, I was just writing down the last question, so I don't forget. So stabilization can be used for any municipal purpose. Usually, typically, it's used for unforeseen, unforeseen expenditures that we come across. And hopefully, it's something that's a large item. And it takes, to set up a stabilization fund, it is a majority vote. And, no, I'm sorry, 2/3 vote. And to take out the funds is, no. To set it up, sorry, it's changed, the law has changed. It used to be 2/3 to set up a stabilization and 2/3 to take out. Now it's a majority vote to set up a stabilization and 2/3 to take out.
And only town meeting can
And only town meeting can, yep,
remove funds from-
correct.
We
Yep,
From
refer
this
to it
rainy
as
day
a
fund.
rainy day fund.
yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tracy, please.
Does it seem like having 800,000 in the assessor's overlay, is that a normal amount to have in an overlay? It sounds like it would be high if we only, if we're taking 150 out at a certain point. How do we, does it just keep accumulating in there?
Yeah, if it's not used, it accumulates. If you don't file for abatements and stuff like that, it accumulates, yeah. But it's not uncommon to have money in your overlay surplus. It's, I don't know.
We've used it in the past as we transferred into the OPEB trust to use to buy down the town's liability for that. So it's, using the funds has been consistent at 150,000. It's just using it for this purpose this year for stabilization. It hasn't been done in a number of years.
Okay, further questions? If not, we'll take a motion to support $150,000 allocation to the Stabilization Trust Fund. Second?
Second?
Thank you, Barbara. Joanne?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy? Yes. Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric?
Assuming this is the first time we've seen this?
Yep.
Yes.
Chair's in favor. 9-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. OPEB liability trust fund appropriation. Speaking of which, $150,000 for our annual,
$150,000 for the purpose of funding the other post-employment benefits liability trust fund. you want me to get into detail? Town
Sure,
established.
well, let's just
Yes.
cover off the OPEB liability, which is listed at 14,675,790. I think our funded amount, last I looked at it a couple of months ago, is just a shade over $4 million, I think, for a funding ratio of a tick over 30%.
Yep, 4,767,000.
That's better than I thought. That's good. The, there's what, 368 communities in the Commonwealth, and looking at the funded ratios for all of those 368, 30% is actually pretty good. There are quite a number of communities that are substantially in excess of that, but they tend to be much smaller communities with much smaller liabilities. But I would just throw a dart at a board and say that 30%, in looking at the numbers, as I did a few months ago, we're probably top quartile in the state, which is kind of remarkable. So, especially given where we were 7, 8 years ago, which is a terrific accomplishment. So, questions for Carrie on the allocation for OPEB?
Just a reminder, Mr. Chair, that this comes from the surcharge on the tax bill, that 1.5% that used to be, that's coming from half of what used to be the surcharge for the land bank. So when your tax bill is figured, then you have a 1.5% piece of that goes to this particular item, OPEB.
Correct. Okay, further questions? If not, I'll take a motion to support appropriation of $150,000. Oh, Tracy.
So, forgive me, but Jill, thank you, Mr. Chair. Were you saying that sometimes that 150,000 will be taken from overlay to be put in for OPEB?
Yes, there's two funding sources for the trust. One is the transfer from the overlay surplus account, but for this article this year, we're asking 150,000 is raised on the tax rate, and then it's funded through, as Joanne had said, 1.5% of the 3% land bank that we no longer have as a surcharge on our tax bill.
Okay. Barbara, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now I'm confused. I thought that we had a 1.5% surcharge which went to OPEB, and in addition to that, we put $150,000 from the tax rate into OPEB. Is that not true?
That's exactly true.
Okay.
But in the past, instead of using the tax rate for the 150,000, we've used the overlay surplus
Okay.
as the funding source.
Thank you.
And depending on how we define the past, we didn't have that allocated 1.5% formally funding the land bank. That was what, probably 3 or maybe 4 years ago?
Yes.
So, two discrete funding sources. Okay, motion to support?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Joanne?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Chairs in favor, 9-0.
Thank you.
Good progress on this.
This is a capital item for dredging. This is an annual request.
What happened to the child voucher support program?
Did I not?
That's what I had next in my roster that you'd sent over.
Oh, here it is. I'll go back. Child care voucher program? Sorry.
Please.
It's out of order.
Please, would you like to join us for this conversation? Yeah, come on up. I can, maybe we can conjure a couple.
Okay.
As Teresa's walking up to the podium, we increased the funding amount this year at the recommendation from the Human Services Committee to $125,000. Prior year, the last prior 2 years has been at $100,000, and it is funded through the tax rate.
Hello,
Hello, Teresa. Welcome.
thank you.
How's
We
this
have a
program
lovely
going?
little fund here. I had done notes for Jill as well as for the Human Services Committee, just about the general operations and changes over the years for this program. And as many of you know, it started at about $3,000, I think, was the first allocation, which actually kind of languished for a couple of years. I have no idea how. I could spend that in about 30 seconds for families here. And now we had, this past year, the 100,000 allocation was encumbered by October of the year. So it has dramatically increased in use, in range of use. It is one of the few resources, we have tons of resources. It's one of the resources in town that not only addresses some of the issues or challenges for local residents, it also includes families who work or own businesses in town. So it's got a little bit further reach than some other resources that might be limited just to town residents. And that was a primary component of the work that the Human Services Committee asked to have continued. So right now we have, this past year, we had 51 households participate, 70 beneficiaries. We have residents in 7 different towns, including Chatham, obviously, participating. The average range of awards was $860 per child to $3,000 per child. There's a set of criteria that actually Human Services just redefined. We went over it again to make sure that it's reaching the points that they had originally wanted to do. We have a lot of families using it more than 1 year. Of the 51, 33 were repeat users. 19 local providers participate, and you're welcome to do some research with them and see if they're pleased with how it runs. We tend to get the funding out to them because of the mechanism that we have with the Treasurer's Office. We tend to get funding out to a lot sooner than other childcare programs that are available through the state. So the providers are happier to get the money, and we've got a little bit of leeway on how, we can call them and say, we have a family who's been approved. You won't see the money until it's released after the July 1 fiscal year starts. So we've put some things in play that really, we hope, address the fact that most families that are going to be using this are using it heavily in the summer. We've seen that as their biggest increase. They're using it a lot more in the summer because you're including the whole school-age population in addition to children younger, where suddenly they don't have school. Well, not really suddenly, but then their childcare expenses, go from a couple of hours after school to a full day expense. So we've designed it so that even though the fiscal year doesn't start till July, Monomoy kind of covers the expenses of families that might need to pay a portion of their summer program up front. A lot of the centers require them to do that. So it's been a nice partnership up till this point, and an incredible resource. I will say that other towns, there's a lot of towns doing the preschool program, which is the Selden program here, but this one remains, there's something kind of similar over on the Vineyard, but this one remains one of the most unique opportunities for families to get, some sort of assistance in programs. I don't know any particular questions you have. This year's usage has been about 55 of the 71 recipients were using school-age programming, 20%, and we've seen a big drop-off for this particular fund in use by preschool because they are using the Selden account, which gives them a significantly larger amount of money. Families can apply. We put a kind of a caveat in the program last year that when the Selden program came into play, that they need to use their Selden money before. So some families are getting, if you have a 4-year-old, you're eligible for $10,000 if you're a Chatham resident. We've asked that they use that first before they go and use this fund so that the families who don't have access to the Selden, whether it's the age of their child or they're not in town, they get priority over the funding, at least at the beginning of the year. We could easily use additional funds for this. I say that every year. I mean, I actually don't say it. I always do the, well, we could see. Families are happy to get any award, and we've seen a slight increase, but the average award this year was about $1,400 per child. And if you have one child in after school, that would cover your about a quarter to a third of your expenses for the year, if you include summer and school year. And it is pretty much a drop in the bucket if you have child younger than that, particularly families that are dealing with child care expenses for infant and toddler programs. They are extremely expensive, kind of like a college loan payment. So I don't know if you have any particular questions or you wanted anything specific.
All right, questions for Teresa, please? Andy?
Teresa, periodically we're asked whether or not programs like this are in any way means tested. As I recall, in this case, they're not. Do you think that just remain that case?
This program, which component of means are you questioning, Andy, or are you interested in?
The question's usually posed to us very generally. Is it means tested? I assume that's referring to either assets or income or both.
Well, for this particular program, we do require that they provide income documentation. It does not, it does not keep them from receiving an award. And given the criteria sheet that we use, you receive more points if you have to be working. That's the other criteria, which I would throw into the means category as well. If you have a family, if you have a head of household family, they both have to be working. Where there's a little stretch in this program is some people will say, well, I am working, it's only part-time. So whereas they might be able to get the points for that criteria, yes, both head of households are working, they might lose it in the section where it says, are the hours necessarily, do they correspond with when you need the childcare for? So we've built things into place to take a closer look, and we have a committee that will review it, will review the applications. It's kind of like a, not in the middle of it, put your eyes on it to see, it's all confidential, but see what you think. Are there questions that are outstanding for you in this application? So there's more testing to it than I think people realize. I like having, and we do get a lot of blowback about, I don't want to show anybody my income. And that's very confidential, but still, I get it. But you also have to understand that we need to know who's using the program. You'll get an award, but you might not get as much as someone who is in a little bit different situation.
Right. No, thank you. I just,
That's as meansy as we get.
that is means testing, right? If
Barbara,
they won't-
please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Teresa, how do people, like someone new to town, possibly find out about the program? Is it talked about in the schools or word of mouth, or how does someone who has no idea that you have the program find out?
You would find out, if your child's in school, you definitely find out right away. Usually it's in their pursuit of childcare. If a family's looking for childcare, they would be referred to either the Monomoy Early Childhood Director, who can then say, oh, here are the pockets of money that are available if you live in Harwich, if you live in Chatham. If they go through the Children's Place, which is a great general resource, they would refer to our program as well. We do some advertising, and we connect with all of the childcare. This year it was, how many childcare providers? I'm sorry, I'm looking, 19. They all get a notification for us, or they know to be looking for it. So any families that come actually looking for care, that's where you'd see. We get calls at Monomoy that are the opposite, where they say, oh, I'm thinking about going back to work. What would I do for childcare? Or I don't have a job right now. They wouldn't qualify for this right now. So it's a little bit of a, a catch-22. But we do offer to assist them once they have the position, or, see if there's a way we can make a smoother transition when you move here, you're looking for a job, but you don't have childcare. Are there actually resources that we could talk to the providers and say, hey, can you slide them in and the funds are on the way, kind of thing. It's not a difficult application to fill out. So I think we can pretty much walk them through it. There's a chance you could be brand new and not be attached to any resources, but there's a lot of early childhood resources and resource people in our community for, let's expand the community to say the Lower Cape or to say the school district, but there's places you could go to find out about it.
Thanks.
Joanne, please.
I have two questions. One, you mentioned the state. Does the state provide any help on this program?
On this program, no. The state does have a separate voucher program that has a different, it does require, it's an income qualifying program. For years, you couldn't touch it. The wait lists were years and years to sit on this wait list. There has been improvement in that, but what you find more is, and that's significantly more funding. You could pay as little as $1 or $2 a day for your childcare if you qualify for the state program, but they do not fund us directly for this project. So we have families at Monomoy that some have state vouchers, some live in Harwich and have, there's another grant program called the Bailey Boyd program. Some are receiving, or have younger children that are getting the Selden, but they still need money for their school-age kids. So it is, you really should give parents a lot of credit for even doing the math on this thing. Your eyes glaze over at the pockets that you should be looking for. So,
This
no,
is a
the
great
state doesn't.
program, and I'm very proud of it. And I can look back 25 years to when a young mother having her third child, and her husband's a carpenter, and she goes to work for the school department, and at the end of the month, her salary pays for the childcare.
Basically.
In order for them to survive. So this is really a great program. I think it's worth, for our taxpayers, every penny we put into it.
We think so too.
Okay, further questions? Teresa, I've got a couple. We note the increase from last year, FY '24 to '25, of $25,000. Is that reflective of an increase in the cost of providing the service or an increase in need levels?
Say that question again, Stephen, sorry. So we
So,
went up
so
with
we went from 100 to
25,000.
125, we're proposing to. And I'm wondering if the driver of that is there is more need in the community, or it costs more to satisfy a fixed unit of need?
I think, like so many things that have to do with social services in general or education in general in Chatham, there's a growing or learning curve on who uses it. I think our usage is up significantly, and the amount that the families are using it is up. So whereas a school-age family might just use it, suddenly it's like, oh my God, not only can I use it during the school year for after school, but I can use this in the summer. I think we learned the timing on when to offer the award lined up much more clearly with the employment needs of the families. They need full-time in the summer. So whereas we used to have the award would go out like end of April, people would get their awards sometime in May. Half of the programs on the Cape that you would use at that point, they're already full. Our town rec is signing up next month. So we're trying to match that better. So I think it's more a larger need per family rather than significantly larger number of families using it.
Okay, that's helpful. In terms of, you mentioned a couple times 19 different service providers. Broadly, what array of services? We can think of the preschool, the Rocking Unicorn, things like that, but what are the services are in that cohort of 19?
That 19 cohort stretches from infant care through, the program's built so that if you had a high school or a challenge student, you could use it for any kind of programming that you were using for an older student as well. But right now, the majority of it is through 5th grade, 6th grade, some 7th grade families. So it's school age, preschool, infant and toddler.
Well,
A large percent, or a fairly significant percentage of it or the actual dollars, not necessarily the numbers, are going to the infant and toddler programs. We don't have a lot of them right here, but they're using programs as far away as Yarmouth, Dennis, so that's where people are going for their childcare.
interesting, okay. And lastly, and I think it's sort of tangential to Joanne's question or observation at least, how do you think, what would be the impact if this program ceased to exist?
What do I think?
It's speculative, but
I think people would go looking for other areas. I think you would have families using the recreation department that would say, okay, are you doing a scholarship this year? I think, it would come back at the town a little bit. But I do think, we say this all the time, childcare right now, and has been for a number of years, is in a crisis situation. Nobody wants a childcare job. They do not pay well. They are few and far between on the Cape. After COVID, weird things went on. So I'm not quite sure what would happen. I think what happens a lot of times is you have kids that are, families say, look, I'm working partially remote. I'm back in the office these days. You take my kids these days. A lot of that kind of stuff, which is lovely. And that's how some of us grew up. I think my aunt was in charge of us a couple of days a week. I didn't even know. But is that the way that we should be looking at quality childcare? No,
Yeah.
really not.
agreed. Thank you. Tracy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment on that. I think another effect would be this town in terms of our entry-level employees for local businesses have a really hard time, like the town has, in filling positions. And I know personally that it has made a difference in somebody choosing to work at a service-oriented job in this town because they were able to access some help with their kids, so they could work.
Super program. Okay, further questions? If not, I'll take a motion to support $125,000 appropriation to the child care voucher program.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you, Andy and Tommy. Joanne?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Chair's in favor, 9-0. Teresa, sorry for cooling your jets in the audience there for a while. We ran through these other things, but
I
very
learned
much
all kinds of
appreciate
things.
your
I learned how
presentation.
often you guys vote 9-0 on things. I'm really excited.
Yeah, we appreciate what you do. Thank you. All right, dredging.
Go back a slide. Dredging. This is an annual article. Usually, I think it's usually $100,000 from free cash and 300,000. Is that how it usually
It's the
goes?
opposite, usually 100,000 in our 5-year capital
Okay.
article, and then 300,000 from free cash.
This annual request for dredging and dredging-related expenses, such as engineering, permitting, and monitoring aerial photos and disposal area maintenance. So each year, they use these funds to dredge out on, what is it? Aunt Lydia's Cove, Chatham Harbor, and Pleasant Bay.
Okay.
Do you have any other
No,
questions?
I think
or-
we're broadly familiar with the program. I think we've been running this initiative for, the last 2 or 3 years, I think, Jill? And roughly this amount, and sort of to provide the town flexibility for addressing its required dredging needs.
Yes, and the services are provided by Barnstable County Dredge Program, and those rates are going up. Ted Keon does serve on the working group of experts for the rates and reviewing of the services. So we feel that this amount that's presented here as one article, if any unexpended funds are left over, they'll carry over into the next fiscal year.
Thank you, Jill. Do we know, Carrie, just quickly to following up on Jill's point, do we know if there's a balance in this account presently?
I can take a look. I'm not sure if there's a balance in the account.
Right, I'll put it on my list. I'll send it to you.
Yep, that's fine. Natural Resources did go over this article with you when they presented the budget too.
Kristen, I think you had your hand up.
At the risk of sounding silly, I'm looking at the tax implication sheet that you gave us. And if I understand what Jill just said, 300,000 is coming out of free cash and 100,
No, that's
this
how
year.
it was
okay.
prior.
Okay.
But this year, it's all on the tax rate.
Okay, thank you
Yep.
very much.
You're
I
welcome.
misheard.
And just to remind the viewer, a penny on the tax rate is now, I think, $120,000?
I believe it's $116,000.
We'll round up.
Yep, that's fine.
All right, thank you. Questions regarding the dredging appropriation? Now I'll take a motion to support.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thanks, Barbara. Joanne, support?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Chair supports 9-0.
Okay.
All right, Carrie, thank you very much.
Thank
We are
you.
going to now turn to the
CPC
CPC articles.
Gary Tonison is here as well, if you have any questions on the articles.
Terrific, thank you, Gary. Sorry to make you cool your jets while we ran through this other stuff, but I appreciate your being here, thank you. So Carrie, over to you, please.
Okay, so the first one is the $15,000 CPC administration budget. This is another annual article, and they use these funds to help pay for the person that actually does minutes and any other expenditures that they may incur.
All right. Sorry, I'm tempted, I'm thinking about whether we just aggregate all this into a vote, but I think that would be inappropriate. So we'll chip away at these one by one. So support for the community preservation administrative budget, $15,000, or further questions? Okay, motion to adopt?
Move it.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. So support, Joanne?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric has excused himself momentarily. Chairs in favor, 8-0.
Okay, thank you. The next one is, let's see, on the screen, it's the Affordable Housing Trust for $750,000.
The next one I have actually in the package is the 3 bucket allocations, the $160,000 for each of open space, historic preservation, and community housing.
Yep, if you're looking at the screen, that's the last one on the list of 480. We can go over that one. So each year, 10% of the CPC funds go into each of these buckets, and this year, there's an estimated amount of $480,000, which would be $160,000 for each bucket, which would be 160 for open space, 160 for historic, and 160 for community housing purposes. And this is a match. This is just the 10% of the estimated revenues coming in 2025.
Okay, so it's our standard operating procedure,
Yep.
procedure for the CPC allocations. Questions for Gary or Carrie? Andy, please.
I'm not sure, Mr. Chairman, but has the select board voted on these?
Yeah, no, they have not voted on them yet, but they are automatically put onto the town meeting warrant.
No, I knew that part. Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, so it's for the benefit of the audience, and I had the conversation yesterday with the town manager about this very topic. We're not allowed to vote on things because the selectmen's warrant. We aren't able to vote on things that selectmen haven't placed on the warrant regarding, disregarding any arguments around efficiency or things like that. But there's an exception for the CPC articles, which are, I guess, automatically placed onto the warrant.
Yes.
So we can jump ahead of them, at least on this one. So, thank you, Andy. The bucket allocations, the 10% estimates for each of the 3 kind of operating buckets under the CPC. Questions for Gary or Gary?
I move them.
Thank you, Andy. Second?
Second.
All right, in favor, Joanne?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric?
Abstain.
Chairs in favor, 8-0 to 1. All right, Carrie, what's next on your list? Housing?
I believe it's the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Yep,
For
that's what I've got.
$750,000. This is to fund the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And they've been doing this since, I think, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund was created in 2006. This was a
But I
special.
think, Jill, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's really only the last 2 or 3 years that we've been funding the trust to this magnitude. Or Gary, maybe you can weigh in on that?
I'll defer to the chair.
Yes, thank you. At this magnitude, yes. Although I believe when the trust fund was initially created in 2006, there was a contribution from the CPA at that time as well.
Okay. Questions regarding the $750,000 allocation to the Affordable Housing Trust? If not, I'll take a motion to support.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Andy. Joanne?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric?
Abstain.
Thank you. Chairs in favor, 8-0 to 1. Lower Cape Housing Institute, Carrie?
Lower
Oh,
Cape
Gary?
Housing Institute for $20,000. This is another article. This has also been on the warrant before. CPC has contributed to Lower Cape Housing in the past. Do if you want more detail about the Lower Cape housing.
Gary, is there anything else you'd like to add to?
No, this is pretty much an annual contribution, and our representatives from the Housing Authority and from the Housing Partnership indicate that it's money well spent. So we recommend it.
Mr. Chair.
Terrific. Questions, Joanne,
I
please.
guess I do have an overall question. When we get through, if we were to vote all of these CPA articles, do you have a balance? And each year with the amount of money that comes in on the CPA surcharge on our tax bills, does that, how much do you allow that to build up, or do you try and give all of it out every year? What do we have left after we spend this?
We like to keep a balance in our account, in the undesignated reserve account, which we can use for any purpose. So for the 3 years that I've been chairing this, we've had anywhere from about 400,000 to 600,000 in that reserve from year to year. If there was really a exciting project that required that we utilize that up, we probably would. But so far, we've been able to maintain that reserve balance. I might add that this year, the request that we received for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund was $500,000, and we took the $250,000 additional that the committee recommended out of the reserve account.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, further questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to support $20,000 appropriation for the Lower Cape Housing Institute.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, guys. Joanne, in favor?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric?
Abstain.
Thank you, and the chair is in favor, 8 to 0 to 1. All right, Carrie, back to you.
Next article is for $75,000 for Forward at the Rock Phase 2. Again, this is another one that the CPC has contributed to. I believe it was back in 2019 to Phase 1.
And Gary, could you just edify us? I think the committee's already been edified, but the viewers and the rock, sort of what the programming is and where it is and how successful it's been to date.
Yeah, this is an application from a non-governmental organization in Chatham. It's pretty much a Cape-wide effort to provide housing for adults who have profound autism or other disabilities. It has a means test. The individuals have to be at 30% or below AMI. And the selection of the individuals that go into this housing project is done by a state organization called the Department of Developmental Disabilities. It's a very expensive program per individual, but these individuals are some of the neediest that we have on the Cape.
Thank you, Gary. Questions? If not, I'll entertain an appropriation of $75,000 for the Forward at the Rock Phase 2, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Joanne, in favor?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric?
Abstain.
Thank you. Chair's in favor, 8 to 0 to 1.
Thank you. The next one on the list is Spring Rock for $100,000. This is another affordable housing project. This one is in Brewster. And it's, does this one get into no, I don't think it does.
Yeah, it's a 45-unit
Oh, okay.
affordable housing facility. The application to us is from the nonprofit developers, Housing Assistance Corporation and Preservation for Affordable Housing. It's a $28 million construction project. Brewster's contributing the land and $1 million, and they're seeking $100,000 each from 6 of the neighboring towns. Most of the money will come from the state and federal government subsidies for this.
And Gary, is it fair to observe that we had a similar program to this last year in Orleans that the CPC proposed funding for and ultimately passed a town meeting? Is that correct?
That would be 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
We had one from Orleans from a for-profit, a Penrose company for the old Cape 5, convert the old Cape 5 headquarters into affordable housing. We did receive an application last year for one in Orleans, but the committee turned that one down because there was no preference provided for Chatham or any of the other towns. It was totally an Orleans preference.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Gary or Carrie? Andy?
Am I correct that in this instance, towns supporting the project will receive a preference in the selection of the project's residents?
Yes, it's in Brewster, and Brewster will have a 55% preference, and then there's a regional preference of 15%, and then there's a open lottery of 30%. So Chatham residents will have a chance at 45% of the units through the regional preference and through the open lottery.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, I'll take a motion to support a $100,000 appropriation to support the Spring Rock rental housing project in Brewster.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, guys. Joanne, in favor?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric?
Abstain.
Chairs in favor, 8-0 to 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coast Guard Boathouse.
Coast Guard Boathouse for $350,000. This is another one that was voted on last year as well. The Coast Guard Boathouse, it's for the funding of exterior renovations and to retain and restore the U.S. Coast Guard Boathouse, including necessary costs and expenses related thereto.
Questions for Andy? Somebody?
This has been a long time coming. Do we know at this point the status of the boathouse and whether or not this will be adequate to do the work that's described?
It has been a long time coming, and in fact, when this was presented to the CPC committee, they thought the boathouse would be moved here later this year or early next year. But as I understand it, they've already since then run into higher costs in providing the foundation than they anticipated, so there might even be a further delay. The reason we didn't provide the $700,000 that was asked for last year was we were concerned that nothing had really started as far as the construction. And that's why we provided half of it last year and said we'd reconsider it again this year. As I understand it, they are going to build the bulkhead that's associated with this. So it does look like something has started on the ground or in the water, and that the project will move forward.
Okay. Right. I couldn't help but notice there was a lot of dredging taking place and bulkhead work and a few pilings here and there. And just wondered.
I might add that our funding is just to, this comes out of historic preservation.
Right.
And our funding is just to restore the historic aspects of the boathouse.
I understand it. Great, thank you.
Barbara, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you won't be turning over any of those funds until they're actually in use or needed, correct?
That's true of all CPA funds. The funds stay with Cary, with the town, until invoices are submitted to pay real expenses that have been incurred.
Good, thanks, Gary.
Eric, please.
You mentioned the reserve fund that you had before. Is that separate from where balances like this would sit? Is there, or is that part of that number you mentioned?
It's separate. We actually have a budget fund of about $5 million, most of that are committed funds that have not been spent yet. So the invoices have not come in yet for Carrie to pay. The undesignated reserve account is different from that. It's the funds that have come in from the tax surcharge or from the state that we simply haven't committed yet. So there's a real difference between what we commit and what we expend.
Gary, I've got two questions, please, regarding the boathouse. One, is there an aggregate figure for what CPC or town meeting has approved or is subject to approved relative to the project?
Well, we provided, I don't know the exact figure, it was 300 and some thousand to move the boathouse from Quincy to Chatham.
Okay.
That was to a citizens group, not to the town, that's actually covering that expense. And then last year, we committed $350,000 toward the historic restoration.
Okay.
This $350,000 would go to historic restoration, and that completes the budget that was submitted to us for that purpose.
Okay, so in aggregate, a tick over $1 million going to two potential sort of designees, as it were.
Yes.
Do we, what's the, presumably there's some kind of an engineering report around the structure. When was that done, and do we have a sense of variance against that engineering report due to Andy's point, time passing?
I don't. Do you?
I can follow up with Ted on that to see if he has any.
Yeah, I mean, we're you know, it's, I played in this thing as a kid, so I think it's really neat that we're thinking about bringing this thing back. But at the same time, to Andy's point, it's been a long time coming, and it may be a long time still coming. We've allocated a lot of money against the likelihood or the probability of bringing it back, but as a guy who's restored old houses over the last 25 years, these things deteriorate over time, depending on storage conditions and where it is and how it's being treated and handled. And it would be a shame if we got down to this path and found out that it's, you know, powder post beetle or dry rot or wet rot or whatever. So not to be Johnny Raincloud, because I like the project, but I'm a little curious where we are. Andy, were you raising your hand?
Yeah, just very briefly, I recall several years ago, there was some sort of an engineering report that was reported in the local paper that talked about it.
That was my recollection.
And for a facility that was meant to carry multi-ton boats on a railroad, you know, it was built pretty heavily.
Yes.
So anyway, our hopes are up, but
Fingers crossed.
we'll see.
Exactly.
I can say that last year, they did report that their engineering report had been completed and that the basic structure of the boathouse was solid.
Oh, good. Good. Okay, terrific. Further questions? Joanne? No. Oh, he's chuckling over there?
Just enjoying it.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to liven up your afternoon. All right, for no further questions, I'll take a motion to appropriate $350,000 from CPC funding for the boathouse.
Move it.
Second.
Thank you, Joanne.
Yes.
Support? Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
John? Yes. Eric? Chairs in favor, 8-0-1.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Monomoy Regional School District Press Box.
Press box. This is, the Monomoy Regional School District is asking the town of Chatham for $100,000 to fund their construction of the structure of a press box at their turf field. This is also going to the town of Harwich as well for a split amount, I believe.
And isn't there a third-party citizens group supporting part of this initiative as well?
The Boosters, I believe, has raised some money.
Yeah, the boosters have raised, I think it's over $30,000, and say that if there's any overrun as far as costs are concerned, that they have the mechanism to raise more or to get in-kind support.
Thank you, Gary. Questions regarding the MRSD press box? I've got just one. What does a $250,000 press box look like? I'm not trying to be cynical. I just I mean, it seems like a lot of money for.
It's a fancy
They,
press box.
I know. They actually needed it needed to be ADA appliant, so they needed to put in, I think it is is it an elevator?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so that's driving the cost up,
Okay.
yeah.
But it is a fancy press box that can be used, as they say, for graduation, for numerous other activities that take place in that field, not just athletic games.
Okay. All right, that's helpful. Thank you. If no further questions, I'll take a motion to support the appropriation of $100,000 in CPC funding for the MRSD press box.
So moved.
Second?
In favor, Joanne?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric? Chair's in favor. 8-0 to 1.
Thank you.
And last but not least, the
Chatham Little
Chatham
League.
Little League Field.
This request is for $136,786 for the Chatham Little League field, and this is just improvements for the field for their fencing, their storage shed, team benches, bleachers, and their stone on the infield.
Okay.
I don't see a press box in this.
No press box.
Come on. No, but you get an infield made out of crushed stone, which should be interesting to play on.
That'll be next year.
That's right. You toughen the kids up a little bit. All right, questions regarding the allocation for the Chatham Little League field? If not, Andy, please.
I mean, as I recall from the presentation on this, we were told that in fact, little baseball teams are using this regularly at the appropriate season. I've seen a few games there. I never had a sense of the volume. But in any event, I support it.
Terrific, thank you.
Yeah.
Tommy, did I see a hand up, or?
No, thank you.
Okay, Joanne, please.
Before we leave this whole subject, I have just one more question to ask. What yearly, every year, does the CPA surcharge bring into this committee? Is it pretty much the same every year, or does it has to fluctuate depending on the tax rate and the valuation, I presume?
Well, the surcharge is pretty much the same. It may go up a little bit because it is a surcharge on the tax.
On the tax bill?
What varies more is the state contribution. So,
Okay.
for example, this year, the state contribution is considerably less than it was last year. And
Like
that kind
what?
of pardon?
How much?
It was like 287, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like $287,000 this year.
And you would pair that with what resources came in from the CPA surcharge, right?
Right.
And that runs pretty much every year, how much?
Well, this year, it's a little over $1 million.
That's the question, that's the answer to my
Yeah,
question.
so this year, we had $1,400,000 roughly to commit if we chose to commit, and we wound up committing about $300,000 more than that.
Right.
And we took that out of the undesignated
The
reserve.
undesignated fund. Thank you.
Barbara, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These funds that have been unexpended are on deposit somewhere earning investment income, right?
One of our sources of income is a little bit of interest that we make, not just on the undesignated reserve, but on the whole $5 million that is unexpended, committed but unexpended.
Thanks.
No small amount of money. So, okay, support for an appropriation of $136,786 for a non-press box equipped Chatham Little League field.
So
Move it. Second.
Thank you. Support. Joanne?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Tommy?
yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric?
Abstain.
Chairs in favor, 8-0-1. All right, Gary, thank you very much.
Thank you for your support.
Appreciate your patience. Thank you.
Gary.
Carrie, anything else that you have on today's agenda?
I don't think so. I think that was it.
I think it's it too, for whatever that's worth. Assuming that's it, then forthcoming, I've got 6 or 7 or 8 different sets of minutes that Ann has graciously provided. Given the authority that was vested in the chair to approve those minutes, I will do so and notify the committee of what has been approved. Joanne, I think there'll be some where I was out that I will be forwarding to you for your review and concurrence, or changes, as the case may be. And Carrie and I will put our heads together, along with Jill as necessary, to think about next votes, articles, et cetera, so we can keep pressing forward on this front. And then we need to, and I think ultimately it starts at least with an initiative by me, but we need to start working on a report for the warrant. It's kind of hard to imagine that next week, Tuesday is March 5th. The report's due, I think, the 19th. So we've got 2.5 weeks to pull this thing together. Carrie and I had a conversation earlier today about the role that Alex historically played, which was not insignificant in providing all the charts and graphs that are in our report, vetting all the numbers that are in the report. So it's a not insignificant lift for Carrie, and I want to make sure that she's got ample time to do that. So if, as is the case in this effort, if you guys have topics, ideas, thoughts, reactions, we're going to keep the format that we've used since I started in this role. So if there's anything you want to highlight, shout out, whatever, start sending your cards and letters so I can begin to get my thoughts organized around what the 4 corners of this thing are going to look like. As, again, typically the case, the first portion of this document is going to be just an analysis of the budget and the various spending articles and the like. The second is typically our assessment of things that we wrote to them about last year, to the select board about last year, and things we want to highlight to them this year. A pithy comment or a pithy quotation is always welcome. So we're trying to get off the Donald Rumsfeld thing. I think last year we had Alexis de Tocqueville, so if we can, keep working on that, I would welcome any insights. Questions, observations now? Andy?
And just in general, I thought that the selection of charts and tables that we did last year was very helpful. I mean, I found it helpful.
Good.
In rereading the report and thinking about town meeting. Did you ever get any feedback from town meeting voters on that?
Oh, yeah, actually, we get a fair bit of feedback.
I mean, specific feedback, not just,
I don't know what it means when you stick your tongue out at me, but the feedback we get is quite positive. I think people find the report to be edifying. They find it to be entertaining. They find that it easy to read and kind of engaging, which I think comes as a surprise to many people who reach out to me, or sometimes Mary Beth. But generally, it seems to be quite well received. I don't know.
and that's consistent with what I've heard. I mean, that people thought that it was a much better explanation, than say 15 years ago.
Yeah, well, we try harder.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah. So, any thoughts you guys have, so we can get cracking on this thing, would be most welcome.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right. Anything further? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I just want to say,
sorry, Carrie.
sorry, one more thing. I know the report's due on the 15th, but I am going to the MMAAA conference, and that will be the week of the 19th. I won't be out the whole week, but I'll be out Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So I only have so much time because I have to go to the conference and I have to go teach, so,
Yep, we'll be mindful of that.
okay.
And, yeah, so we'll definitely be collaborating on all this, so. Okay, if there's nothing further, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, in favor, Joanne?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Barb?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yep.
Tommy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
The chair's in favor, 9-0. All right, thank you, everybody.